Okay, this is going to be a quick little tutorial on how to use this color picker template. I sent you a new template that I think will be a little bit easier. It now includes the prismatic CMYK colors. So this will be a lot more helpful when we start populating this. So go ahead and open up Illustrator and then open this file up from your desktop. A couple of things that you want to open up is go to Window and make sure that the color is selected. And this brings up this little color palette. And then make sure that the layers are selected. And then you'll see the layers you're working on. So just to understand how I've set up this template, you can see here's the layers of this particular template. I've got one layer that is the prismatics, one layer that is the text layer, and one layer that is the color layer. When you receive this, all the layers will be locked. So unlock, you'll see the little lock here. So just click on this and unlock and unlock. Leave the text layer locked for right now. Eventually we'll export the palette, so we won't need it, so we'll just click it off by clicking the little eye. But for right now it's kind of helpful to have that in there so you can see what we're doing. One of the things you also want to make sure is that when you bring in this little color palette, you may see a couple of different things. I've got it set for the CMYK sliders. It may come in as RGB depending on whoever was working this, or it may be RGB, or it also might be HSB. Let's set it for the CMYK sliders, and I'm going to show you in a bit why we're going to do that. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to go back and forth in the color guide. Now, when you open the color guide, you may not see this. That is under, if it comes up and it looks like that, what you need to do is click on this little down arrow and it says show options. And then that gives you a range. Right now, because I don't have anything selected, it's showing us just shades of white and gray. Okay, so we're set up here. I would leave this set up, and then let's pick our colors. Okay, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. On the Mac, I hit Command plus. All right, so again, we're doing a double complement tetrad, and you're going to have to decide which colors you want to choose. I've decided I'm going to use the double complement tetrad of yellow, green, blue, green, red, violet, and red, orange. And again, the definition of a double complement is you pick two complementary colors. So I started with green and red, and then you pick the colors on either side of those colors. So either side of green is blue green and yellow green, and either side of red is red violet and red orange. All right, so what I first want to do is go ahead and populate these colors. So these are the colors, the legs of the complement: H1, H2, H3, H4. H stands for hue. So I'm going to use yellow green. So I took the direct selection tool, selected the box, and now I go to the eyedropper and I select the prismatic color and it populates it. And then I'm going to do the next hue, which is going to be blue green. And I just keep doing that. And this is basically how we populate the set of color swatches. So now I'm going to go to red violet. And then red orange. Oops. Okay. So once I've done that, now I want to populate the different aspects of the color swatches. And then these are going to be the colors that we're going to pick from to develop our portrait. Okay, so let's go to one that I've already done a lot of work on. And you can see that I've created the shades and then the tint shades and complements of H1. So you can see that I'm in the red orange. What I want to do is get back to the yellow green. So select the yellow green, and then what I have to make sure is I select the little swatch here, and it brings it back to this. What this is this whole thing called harmony rules. So if you click on the down arrow, you can get a variety of rules here. And let's say I wanted, to look at the tetrad. This is one of the tetrads, and it's showing the tetrad from yellow-green, and it's showing a variety of the colors that are available from that. It's a little bit different than the tetrad that we're using, but let's go back to the harmony of shades, because that's what we're working in. Okay. Now, when I populate, it says tint shades and complements of H1. That's these colors. And again, when it means a complement, it's the tints and shades plus the complement. So the complement of H1, which is yellow-green, the complement of yellow-green is the red-violet. So that means these are going to be muted colors with a little bit of red in them. And we can see whether or not that's true. Let's select one of these colors. Well, let's do this. Let's select the prismatic color. And then we can go back to the color tab with our CMY sliders, and this will analyze exactly what's in that color. And this makes sense. It is 50% of cyan and 100% of yellow makes the yellow green. There's no magenta in it, and there's no black. All right. Let's go back to this and let's analyze now the one right below it, which I said is the tints and shades. So here's the color. I used it to populate this. Select it. And then let's go back to the CMYK sliders. Look at this. There's a little bit of magenta in there. It's increased a little bit of the blue, and that would make sense because it's a complement of red-violet. So if it was just magenta, we would see this increased, and this had been 50%. But because it's red-violet, it's also increased a little bit of cyan, so that makes sense. So that's how we can make sure that these are in fact tints and shades with a little bit of the complement. So that's a good check, and that's why I really like using these sliders. It kind of helps analyze the tools. Later on, if we wanted to adjust a color, let's say you pick one of these colors from your color palette, and you go, oh, that color is maybe a little light or a little bit dark, we can adjust it in the CMYK slider. I'll go through that again when we start populating the portrait. Okay, so let's go back and let's just finish this off. So now I need to populate the two sets of swatches from H4. So again, I select it, and then I come up here and I have to select it up here, and it gives me those shades and tints. So again, I go through this process of I select my block, and then I come up and select that. And I realize this is a little bit tedious, but it's going to pay off in spades because we're going to have a very nice, accurate template set up. Oh, see, I made a mistake there, so no problem. I just go back and select that, and it repopulates it. Okay, let's look at this range here. This is just giving you options to extend your hue range here within this one color. I'm going to select the blue-green, and make some more complementary mixings of blue-green. So I know that this range here has some red in it, so that might not be a bad place to start. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select, if I pick this one, I'm going to go ahead and select the one right below it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do that. And then that leaves these the same. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this. So click on this. And now let's go to the CMYK sliders. So if I wanted to neutralize this even more and I wanted to add its complement, it means I need to add a little bit more cyan, a little bit more magenta. Let's just add a little more magenta to it. All right. See how it neutralized it even more? And then I could go back to my color guide and click on this, and it's going to give me shades of that. That's almost gray. But what I could do is I could start populating with this, and I could go, well, whoops, I want it to be on this one here. And just keep going. You can see these are really almost, neutral grays. That may be a little bit too neutral, but you can see that there's a variety of ways that you could do this. Maybe I go back to this original color. Click on it. There it is. And when I go to adjust it, maybe I don't throw so much red in it. Throw a little bit of blue in there. And now go to the color guide, and that's not as bad. That's not as neutral. Anyway, this is just for you to play with and extend. The most important thing is to have all of these colors in place. I just need to now populate this with the rest of these blue violets, and then I'd be done. So that's it. Have this ready before you start populating your portrait, and what we'll do is once we're done with this palette, we'll export it as a JPEG, and then we'll be able to import it into Photoshop. That's that.